The 5 pups stared worriedly at the entrance of the lookout, wondering. The 5 pups stared worriedly at the entrance of the lookout, wondering why Ryder had not yet emerged and why the power had once again shut off. Curious Chase made his way over to the double doors. Ryder, sir? Are you coming? Ryder quickly tried to force the doors open with his hands. He struggled and grunted using every ounce of his strength, but the doors still did not part. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his pup pad to try and reactivate the auxiliary power once again. But once he tapped his screen, he found that the device would not power on. No. He thought to himself as he continued tapping the black screen. He pushed himself up against the entrance doors. Pups. The power is out again. I think it's the ghost pirate. I heard the voice. He gulped. I can't reactivate the power. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but I need the 5 of you to continue this mission without me. The 5 pups gasped, all running to the entrance doors, leaning and banging on them. No, Ryder. We're not leaving without you, said Chase. We can't lose another member, cried Marshall. This is an order, Ryder yelled, in a very harsh manner. He never once had to use a tone of this nature or raise his voice with them, and they were all very shocked. Chase wanted to argue back, to tell him that he could not obey this order, but he knew that Ryder had made up his mind for them to go and was not going to back down. With sorrow-filled eyes he turned to face the others. We need to go, he said, gaining a surprised look from the others. What? We can't just leave Ryder, Sky argued. These are our orders. We have to obey. It's what Ryder wants. Another second we're here is another second the others could be in danger. The others stared at the ground. They knew Chase was right. Marshall, if it's all right with you, I'd like to pair up with Sky and go check on the porters. I have something important I need to talk to her about. Do you mind pairing up with Zuma? The Dalmatian lowered his ears. Sure, that's fine, he replied, lowering his head sadly. Chase noticed Marshall's expression and wanted to question it, but instead decided to brush it off. He proceeded to walk to his vehicle with the others following behind, heading to their designated areas as well. As the group walked around to their pup houses, they couldn't help but notice the slide decorated with blood, sliced bones, and entrails that came from their close friend. They tried their best to keep it together as memories of his horrible death came flooding back. With these terrible memories, their worry for Ryder only increased. Zuma, Chase, Rocky, and Marshall each approached their pup house and pressed a switch that caused them to transform into their vehicles. Sky hopped into the back of Chase's police cruiser. She didn't want to take her helicopter for obvious reasons. The 4 lined their vehicles up in a horizontal row. Once either of you find any of the others, safe or otherwise, just contact the rest of us, said Chase. The other 3 simply nodded. With that said, the 5 turned to look at the lookout once more.
Please be safe, Ryder.
Ryder turned around and stared into the dark as he heard metallic footsteps inching closer. He focused his eyes and saw blue lights in the distance. Robodog, he shouted in excitement as he noticed the robotic dog walking closer to him. Boy, am I glad to see Dash. His excitement changed to worry as he realized something. Wait. I don't remember activating you, he said with wide eyes. As Robodog inched closer, Ryder's pup pad began to ring. It's working now? Ryder said to himself, completely confused. He fumbled around in his pockets before pulling the device out. As he gazed at the screen, his expression became even more confused to see a cartoon bloody skull icon as the pup pad continued to ring. He hesitated a moment before answering. Once he answered, video feed of Bloodbeard appeared on the screen. The pirate just stood there in one spot, breathing heavily for what seemed like minutes before the pup pad shut off again. Ryder had never been more freaked out than now. His state of shock caused him to drop the pup pad to the ground, shattering the screen in the process. Robodog lunged at Ryder, biting his ankle, ripping through his pants leg and drawing blood. Ryder grunted in pain. He kicked his leg and sent Robodog sailing across the floor. The cybernetic dog hopped back on its feet, yipping and wagging its tail before charging at the boy again. Robodog, stop! Ryder commanded while clenching his hurt ankle. The command did not register. Ryder quickly dodged and rolled as Robodog tried to attack him once again, just barely missing his arm. Ryder knew that he couldn't disable the cybernetic dog without his remote, and even if he had the remote, it wouldn't do much good. He stared at his hand, which was printed with blood from his ankle. Robodog attacked once more, this time making contact with Ryder's leg and taking a huge chunk of flesh. Urgh! Ryder uttered through gritted teeth. The immense pain caused beads of tears to form in his eyes. He was immediately starting to regret his decision of telling the pups to leave. He needed help and the situation was only starting to look more bleak. Robodog launched himself towards Ryder's face with blood trickling down his metallic mouth. Ryder caught him with both hands just before Robodog could snap at his face, but the impact caused him to fall onto his back. The metallic monster continued its assault, trying to bite and nip any part of the 10-year-old as Ryder struggled to continue holding him while lying on the floor. Is this it? He thought. I never would have imagined that it would end like this. I'm sorry, Chase. Rocky. Zuma. Sky. Marshall. And, especially you. Rubble. At that moment, something clicked within Ryder. No. Using all of his strength, Ryder threw Robodog with a great amount of force, causing him to collide with a wall a few feet away. Of course, it didn't take the electronic menace long to recover. Ryder, clutching his bleeding leg, quickly limped back over to the entrance doors and picked up his pup pad. Robodog was already heading straight for him. Ryder held the pup pad with both hands, positioning himself in a batter-ready stance. I'm sorry to do this to you, he said. But I won't let you tear me away from them. Robodog jumped up towards Ryder's face again. Ryder swung the pup pad with all his might. KRSSSHT. The pup pad made direct contact with Robodog's head. The metallic menace, along with a group of glass shards, went spiraling in the air across the room and smashed into a wall. Robodog fell to the floor from the wall. His eye visor blinked a few times before shutting off. Ryder dropped his pup pad to the floor and breathed heavily. He had survived the assault of one of his greatest and most loved creations, but the cost of living came from destroying it. I suppose, Huff, I can always build a second version, he said while staring at the floor. He closed his eyes and sighed in relief. Now I just need to find a way out of here. At that moment, Robodog's visor blinked back on and not a second later his jetpack activated. He shot through the air towards Ryder with great speed. Ryder gasped and looked up with wide eyes. Robodog bit Ryder's neck while passing and ripped his head clear off his shoulders with a powerful force. The metallic monster then smashed into the entrance doors with an impact so great that its metallic body completely shattered, causing it to drop Ryder's severed head to the floor. Ryder's headless body spewed blood from the top like a volcano as it fell to the floor, already forming a giant puddle. His head was placed a few feet away, bearing the same wide-eyed expression he had just before the murderous monster decapitated him. Katie's eyes shot open wide as she sat up dressed in pajamas in her bed breathing heavily. She reached over and turned on her lamp. What a nightmare, she said aloud. I hope you're having better dreams than me, she said as she turned to look at Callie.
Callie was een tere.
Callie? Katie called as she began to look in all directions of the room. The lamp then shut off. Those who gaze upon the moon as I pass, shall soon find that night to be their last, uttered a voice that was very unfamiliar to Katie. Katie jumped as she pulled up her covers. Who's there? She asked a little too panicked. I must still be dreaming, she thought to herself. Kewatii, called a voice. Kewatii. Katie got out of her bed with a confused expression and walked to the doorway as she recognized the voice that was calling her. Rubble, she said, staring out into the darkness. Katie, see me and Callie have a surprise for you.